Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. Very excited today. We have Keven Gardner from 12 Gauge Studios to talk about the exciting new Body Bags Kickstarter he has in conjunction with Scott Dunbier and Act 4 Studios, along with the exciting new Hack Slash Body Bags team up that just came out from Image Comics that is really, really, really good. I'm so excited to have you here today. So thank you for being here. Welcome, Keven. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I really appreciate you having me on.
You got it. So speaking of your Kickstarter, congratulations. I checked this morning and you're at over 55K. The goal for the Kickstarter for Jason Pearson's artist edition of Body Bags was 45K. So you must be happy that people are responding so well as I knew they would to this exciting project because I know it's something I want. So I can imagine fans are ravenous for it.
Yeah, I mean it's always you hold your breath, and I'm really bad about actually going low on the goals of Kickstarter. This is the fourth one we've done, and I've always gone below what we actually need. Um, so this one was a little tricky because and there's different factors that go into it, but the printing expense on this is just insane. Like to print these giant books. But now, like I think we're pretty much covered on the printing now. I think with the 55,
Uh,
we're in good shape. So yeah, huge relief. And plus we got the other books too, so there's a lot of other little factors. But man, I just really wanted this book. I've wanted it for, I talked to Jason about it years ago, and of course he was in his typical self. He was like, "Oh, nobody would buy this. I don't want to do one of these. Nobody would buy it." So it's really nice to see, that the fans are there and supporting it, and it deserves to be seen. So it's a really nice feeling.
I know it's funny. Yeah, I was surprised to see it too. But very happy that when you told me that, Jason was interested in like branching out with body bags and everything because I begged him several times. I'm like, you need an art book. You have such great art. You're blah blah blah. And he was like pretty much the same way. He poo-pooed the idea, but he was kind of humble in that way. So I know that he is somewhere very happy about all this excitement over him. So how did Scott Dunbier, Scott Dunbier is on fire. He's on my wish list of people to talk to. I feel like he was born to fulfill my artistic needs by creating these artist editions. They are beautiful, gorgeous, amazing. He was at IDW for years, and now he's with his own company, Act 4, deservedly so. I wish them nothing but success. And Scott had mentioned that this artist edition was the only one he's going to do as a Kickstarter, and there's a reason for it. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so when Jason passed away, he reached out to Joe Phillips, who was one of Jason's studio mates at Gaijin Studios back in the day, and wanted to, he's like, who do I need to contact about doing an artist edition? And so he put us in touch, and yeah, it was really the Jason had this Kickstarter campaign back in 2015 for a new body bag story. And obviously, if you've heard about it or you backed it, and he he didn't finish it. He didn't. Nobody can tell you exactly what happened because nobody really knows. I just know that he wanted to do it. He wrote the story. Like when we talked about it, he had a plan. We did two books together. I guess four actually. We did the reprints of the original stuff back when I had first started 12 gauge a year or two after that. And I was the one that was said, dude, you got to do more body bags. Like everybody just loves this series. And there was he had started a sequel when he was at Dark Horse, and he had gotten really ill and was in the hospital. And one of those things where it could have been it was a life threatening situation. And he got out, and he told me, for a while he couldn't draw. He's like, I just had no, the creative energy or whatever was gone, and so that series kind of fell apart. And he started doing other stuff, and then I started 12 gauge around 2003, and he was one of the guys that I knew all these guys at Gaijin from proximity. I used to own a comic book store. It was about an hour and a half away from Atlanta in Auburn, Alabama, and So I had met those guys. I got them coming to my shop and stuff. And then I went to work for Valiant Comics back in '95. And so I just got to know those guys. I still have a comic book store, but when when I started 12 gauge, kind of the idea was I wanted to get all my artist friends, uh, and start helping them do books outside of Marvel and DC. I mean, they had their own thing with Blanc Noir, which was a line at Dark Horse, to different levels of success. But I was like, hey, let me help you guys, and then let's do something fun together. And that's where this idea for an anthology book called The Ride came from. And the first guy I called was Jay, and I was like, hey, here's the idea, and we're gonna use multiple artists and do different chapters, and so everybody can kind of get in on it and have fun. And it was really just a way for have fun doing comics. That there's no heavy editorial hand involved. It's more of a I kind of call it the bowling ball theory. Like I wrote a bowling ball, and I just sort of like, hey, wait, where's it? I don't know where it's going to go, right? And that's kind of the way those stories were. Like, give me your idea, and then let's roll. Let's go. And so Jason was the first person I reached out to because I knew he was going to be the hardest person to get to say yes. And he did. And so then it was easier to get, like Brian Stelfreeze and Cully Hamner and George Jeanty and Dexter Vines were another team that we did like the 4 chapters of this story. So that went really well. And so Jason came, he flew from Portland to, I guess he flew into Atlanta. I picked him up there and we went up to Charlotte for Heroes Con, which is one of our favorite conventions. It's a great show. And on that trip, I pitched him to do new body bag stories. And at first, on the way up, he was like, "No, I'm not. I'm never doing body bags again." And we had this great, great convention, and there was all this excitement around the new comic, And on the way back from Charlotte to Atlanta, like on that Monday or something, and we talked about it again, and he was like, he warmed up, and he's like, I could see how this could work. So that's how we got started working on body bags. So, and I'm totally rambling now, and I forgot the point of.
No, it's okay. I love it. You're giving me great information. And for anyone who has not read The Ride, it's an amazing comic book. I love a great concept book like that, and the art, of course, is amazing. You mentioned the Gaijin Studios that Jason was a part of, and I love all those artists. I follow all those artists. I can't believe that they had such a wealth of talent involved in there. So I think the point where we're getting at is how this led to the artist edition.
Yeah, well, so yeah, the when he had reached out about it, so yeah, so we started doing new body bag stories. He did a couple of successful books, and then he was here in Birmingham. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. He had moved from Portland to Birmingham when we started doing the new stuff back in like 2005, 6. He was here for a few years, and he worked with me at my office and stuff. Just try to help. He really liked that studio vibe, and when he was alone, he wasn't as productive. And a studio started up in Atlanta with a bunch of his friends, and so he moved on to Atlanta, and got in doing he was doing a lot more Marvel and DC work, trying to get his profile up and again and things like that. And then so like 2014 ish, 2013, 14, he started getting the itch to do body bags again, and he had planned out a big like at first it was a couple of volumes, and it eventually turned into about 5 volumes of stuff that he wanted to do. And so then he's really slow, and it was a situation where I'm like, maybe do a fundraiser because I had other books going on, and I couldn't really fund him to work for 2 years on a book. Just like my business model at 12 gauge is fund a book or a series or two, get those out, get the money back in, and let's do some more. So that's sort of the thing. Like I'm not some, I don't have a gigantic stash of cash that I just blow on comics, making them. So it's we try to run it like a business, and but just a boutique kind of a feel. So anyway, so the idea of doing a Kickstarter came up, and I told him I'd help him with it, but it had to be his, and but one of the things I said is, if you want me to help you do this, I need you to write the story, because that's going to be the hardest part for you. He's a great writer and great artist, but the writing part was what was really the hardest part for him, because he's not a trained writer,
right?
And he did, man. He wrote it's about 100-page script, and he sent it to me. Like he emailed it to me and his mom, like overnight one night. And I got up that morning and started reading it, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I mean, and it took like where Body Bags, the initial series was sort of like that Tarantino vibe.
Hmm.
Um, a little poppy, uh, Tony Scott, kind of you like that kind of a vibe to that series.
Yeah.
And when he did the new stories, the like, especially like the one shot, which was sort of like Die Hard-esque, very action,
Hmm.
and then so I didn't know what I was getting into. Like he had sort of told me a little bit, but I didn't really know. And it was, I can only describe it to people. It's like David Fincher. Like, I mean, it went really dark, but not in a way that wasn't organic for the story. And Mac and Panda were uh it was just a really dark story. But it was great. I mean, really, I mean, just like I was blown away. And I had some stuff where I would always try to pull him back a little bit on things. There was always time where like when he push it too far, and so we had a lot of those conversations. But anyway, he was excited. He started doing those online short stories, and that was another idea where I was like, tune it up, start drawing Mac and Panda again. Let's do these. Let's do something. I just did like maybe an intro to the story. Do something short that we can proof of concept. You can show your backers, that you're going to, be able to do this. And so he came up with the idea for the 3Bs. It was like these little 2 or 3 page shorts. I guess they were all three. That was sort of the initial idea. And so I'll just do those while the campaign's running. And he did, and they were great. And he started the campaign and he got funded like really quickly. And the stress of it, like it hit him, like, oh my God, this is real. I got to do it. So I could tell that, it sort of had the opposite effect of, hey man, look, everybody loves this. It's doing well. It kind of freaked him out. Like now I had to do it. And so anyway, he was very excited. And um when I first began to know he was in trouble, was he got working. He was starting to do some stuff, and then I stopped seeing, like, he wasn't sending me anything, and so and that wouldn't, like, he'd disappear for weeks. It's just the way it was,
Hmm.
and so then I get a call from him one night, and he's like, "Man, I've cracked this story." I'm like, "What do you mean you cracked the story?" He's like, "Well, I had to throw that original script out because this, and this." I'm like, "Dude, like, there's nothing wrong with that script. Like, it's great. He's like, no, I want to do this because I'm setting up this thing that's going to happen in the not next volume, but 3 volume, like volume 3 of this new thing. Like, oh man, okay. Well, and they were great ideas. It's not like he was coming up with garbage. Like he was coming up with great stuff. And I said, I think initially it was supposed to be like, like a 4 issue, type miniseries type thing. Like that was what the Don't Die Until I Kill You was. And I mean, he came back in with the next draft. It was about, maybe 8 issues worth of stuff. And so it was really 2 volumes. And, he did start drawing pages. Maybe that was around 2018, 17, 18. It was a couple years later. He started working on it. And it was just like weighing on him. And so that, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not talking out of turn to say, Jason did suffer. He had depression, and people saw his online antics on occasion where he would, lash out at people. I mean, he had, some stuff going on, and I think whatever it was, I'm not a doctor. I just know he really did want to do it, and he worked on it constantly. He was always reworking it, and for whatever reason, he couldn't finish it. So when he passed away, there were, all these backers that were, understandably really mad and frustrated before I mean, they were mad for years, right? I mean, it had been a long time. And, for the most part, online people say a bunch of garbage, just kind of part of it. And there was a couple of people that were, well, I'll never get my Kickstarter now. F that guy. He screwed us. He never intended to do this. And, Scott had seen that stuff too. So when he reached out, he's like, man, look, let's do an artist edition. Like that's something that, he deserves. And let's figure out a way, to give something back to those people, all of his fans that backed him. And so we started, that's not easy to figure out. Like there's not like an easy way to do this. And so it took a minute. And he was at the time we were going to, do it like through IDW. And try to figure out a way to make this all work. And there really wasn't a way. If you do a traditional publishing, um, it's not like if we're doing it ourselves, we have a lot more flexibility. But if you're doing it through a company like, an IDW or, whoever, they've got procedures, right? So it's not like we can just get the books at cost and sell them to people, or like sort of, take our percentage of the funds from a royalty and give books away. It's just really tricky. How do you make that work? I told Scott, like, I think we've got to do this as a Kickstarter and, just do it ourselves. And, so like I said, logistically, we're trying to figure it out. And during we kind of knew that was the route to go, and he was going to work that out with IDW. And we started scanning. Like I went up to Baltimore Con last year and took all the art that Jay had. Like I wasn't going to ship it, right? I mean, there's like no way I would trust to ship it to California so that Scott could scan it or whatever. So we bought this gigantic. Got on to research the uh, overhead, like airplane bin size, and I found this backpack that was it was gigantic yet would fit, and it would meet all the standards. And I put all the art that for the to scan into the backpack, put in a couple of boxes, like large FedEx boxes that fit in there. And so I had this like, goddamn, it was like 100 pounds. It felt like on my back traveling across up to Baltimore. But anyway, so we started scanning it, and we didn't get finished with it. But at that show, because he brought a scanner, he was working on some other artist edition stuff too. So we had a lot of art, collectors that would come. That would be at that show and bringing stuff. And we kept working on like how are we going to logistically make this work. And not too long after that, he decided to start Act 4 publishing. So it worked out really good because now we were just completely do what we want. We don't have to worry about how we're going to publish it. We're going to publish it, and so worked with the Kickstarter people. First brought up the idea to them, and said I've done a few campaigns, and so had some connections there, and they were super excited. All the people that got involved with it, and they were just thrilled that one, the backers would be getting something, and two, that we were willing to take the risk of of making this work, and also giving away what his campaign did. Like I can't remember the number now, but it was a substantial amount of money that we're basically giving away. But we looked at it as it'll work out because there's so many other fans that didn't back the Kickstarter back then that whatever reasons we can reach people. And so it's worked out. So basically, if you back that campaign from anywhere from $5 to $1,000, whatever, obviously we don't have $1,000 worth of stuff. We've got like a $300 tier, but we'll give you your credit. So most people are coming in at like $75. We've given away a lot of free books. Like people that reached out like, hey, I bought this and did this tier, so we're giving them a book, and all the stuff like the ancillary books. And so, but we structured the campaign. So the artist edition, which is this giant 12-inch by 17-inch hardcover that will have all those original story pages, that's the one item. And then we've got a sketchbook, which is 64 pages. It's it's a large size. It's 8-inch by 12-inch, and all his commission work. So that's like $35. So that hits a slot. So if you spent $35, and here's a free book.
Yeah.
And then we've got the artist edition plus, which is a same format, 8-inch by 12-inch, 64 pages, and that was just because there's so much material that Jason left behind that besides just sequential pages, concept art, character designs, just doodles and all kinds of great stuff, all body bags related. So we'll put all that kind of stuff in there. Plus, we're gonna print for the first time those online short stories. They're all colored and lettered. But they've never been printed, so we're gonna put those in that book with all this other cool stuff. So just a nice little, additional book to go along with this edition. So yes, and so far so good. And I've had nothing but, and that's the other great thing about this campaign, for me and for Jason's mom, and so I talk to her all the time, and the people that have been emailing are just so excited, and they're like, man, look, I hated that Jason didn't do this book, but I still am a huge fan because I know I felt like he wanted to do it, whatever reasons just didn't happen, but so happy that you guys are doing this because I really want this artist edition, some people are like, hey, I'm just glad to get something. I feel like now, so that was Scott and I, that was the goal. It was, we don't want Jason's legacy to be that he didn't finish his Kickstarter. Like that there would always be these people that would talk about it. And this gives closure to a lot of people. I know it's stupid. It's like it's $35 or $75, but it's the point of that negative vibe hanging out over his career. I always, and I mean this sincerely because I've worked, he was a friend, but before he was a friend, I was just a fan. And his art, like the body bag story and the craftsmanship that went into those pages, that it's just amazing. Like it was a huge step up in his career, and you really could see like what a talent he was. And he cared a lot about his art. And that's one of the reasons he didn't produce as much, is because he cared a lot about it. And he wanted everything, to be great. And so he worked on a lot of Marvel DC stuff over the years, and certainly has a following, especially for Deadpool. He did all those covers, and then the miniseries. And his stuff was always, innovative, and he was always pushing boundaries. And he wasn't a guy that, if you saw his work on, or his early work for Marvel and DC, and then you saw the big, step up to body bags, and then the stuff he's worked on after, like, he changed his style up, and people sometimes they didn't like it because they're used to seeing the same thing. There's great artists that figured out their style in the 90s and they never changed anything. They just do the exact same thing forever because it works and it's commercially viable. And, Jason went cartoony, in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was cool. He was experimenting. He was doing different stuff. A lot of his fans rejected it. They're like, oh my God, now you go back and look at it and you're like, yeah, it's really good too. Like he was always pushing himself. And even the later stuff that he did, it was just always experimenting with new lines, new style, working digitally, learning how to do all that. So it's really great that we can showcase this big book that shows sort of, that transition over the years of his art style, and help raise his profile a little bit more, and instead make his fans whole, to some degree, that had backed that original Kickstarter.
I'm really thankful and glad, and really respond to a lot of the things you said, because that thought had crossed my mind, is that I really didn't want his legacy to be an unfinished Kickstarter. And like you said, like online people are so unrelenting. It's like I would gladly eat the cost of this $75 to just have this book. You know what I mean? I know that Jason was working on it. I know he had good intentions. It's a very valid point. The stress and the sort of, forgive my language, mind fuck of a Kickstarter. You know what I mean? It's like I
Yeah.
just finished one myself last month, and it's like while you're in it, it's almost like you're in this like drug induced haze of like expectation and worry. And
Yeah.
Jason overthought things, and he was such an artist, and like every molecule of his being, just was about art. And he did care so much, you know what I mean? So, and I'm really happy that, like, I can't believe you have such an astonishing amount of his art, because he was known to like tear up art and destroy his art and stuff like that. And so I'm glad he, preserved that. I'm glad this book is happening. The extra books sound amazing. It looks absolutely beautiful. Yeah, for people who aren't like in the know on these artist editions, it's like the next best thing to like holding the original pages in your hand, and you can see like the little lines and the strokes and the genius of Jason Pearson. We used to have many conversations, and he would always send me these little post-it arts. He drew a lot on post-its. I
Yeah.
thought it was my thought too that I would love for somebody to collect his post-it art sometime, because there were some real gems in there. He would always draw my dog for me, and he drew my profile picture. We had a mutual love of Miguel, Patrick Miguel, and he drew a version of that for me for Facebook. And he's just such a great artist, and I'm so glad this is happening. So how did the hack slash crossover? It's funny because I was blindsided by the hack slash thing that came out of nowhere, and I was like, I wasn't overly familiar with hack slash, but then when I like found out more about it, it made total sense. And then after reading the first issue, loved it. It was like so well done. I thought it was a story that Jason wouldn't do, but it was in the style of Body Bags. Like it didn't feel wrong. You know what I mean? The characters acted right to me, and the setting seemed right. So,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about how that came about?
Yeah. And going back to Heroes Con, I'm giving them all the plugs this weekend. It was the first, this was a little over a year ago. And, I went to Heroes Con, after Jason had passed away. So this is the first time, everybody was getting together and talking and, so that was that kind of a show. Because all of, that was his home show. That was where all the Gaijin guys, that was their base, and it's a ton of fan base there. And so yeah, I was hanging out. I wasn't exhibiting or anything. I just went to hang out. And Cully Hamner walked over and he's like, "Hey man, Tim Seeley?" I'm like, I know who he is. We were not, I've never met him. He said he just sent an email to me, and he's looking to, he's got an idea for a body bags thing, and asked me who to reach out to. Obviously, I think it's going to be you. So do you want to talk to him? I'm like, okay, yeah, like this is like, didn't have this on my bingo card, right? And we had just finished, like, uh I think that month, like it was maybe a couple of weeks before. That was in June. I think it was in May where we finally got the ability to go clean out his apartment. It had to go through, like, he didn't leave a will, and so his mom had to go through all that legal stuff. And you had got to get a lawyer, you've got to file all the whatever to get the probate stuff. And anyway, it takes forever. There's nothing quick. So I was helping her with all that stuff. And he had an apartment in Atlanta that where all this stuff was there, and we couldn't get in there and get it. So um they weren't going to let us even go in. And like there was okay, no, it's a real pain in the ass. But basically I'd gotten in when after he passed away, and reached out to the landlord and informed them what was going on, or I guess they knew. But told them, like, hey, here's what's up. Here's his mom. She's like, well, you can't get in the apartment, but like our lawyer said, well, you can get in and look for a will. So I drove up and went in, and of course they're following me step by step to make sure I don't take anything, but I'm able to look through all the stuff. So I knew that he had all these pages. So that was one of the things I was looking for. There was a thought that he had a will because his mom and him had talked about it. I think there was a possibility that he had done one. So we were looking for that too. But I did find all the body bags pages, like they were like boxed up, all the old stuff, the original miniseries and the short stories. Pretty much those were in one box, and he had a label that was sitting like under his computer at his drawing board. So I was like, all right, great. But also the terrifying thoughts of these are going to sit here. And I was thinking like maybe 3 months, and it drug out to 6. And the other pages were just scattered across like his drawing table, and he had pages and stuff he was working on. And so anyway, I knew it was all there. So it took us 6 months to get all that stuff out. So I had just done that. And so I just like, I don't, there's not gonna be a new body bags stuff, right? Like that doesn't even make sense to me. But I emailed with Tim, and we talked. And he's like, dude, I'm his huge fan, and he was such an influence on me. And Stefano Caselli, who's a huge artist at Marvel, big deal. And I didn't know him either, but he said he was friends with Jay, and we were, Pack Slash was their initial creator-owned book together. And he said, like, we just want to do this crossover. And there was the same kind of thing as what I was talking about with Scott when he called. He's like, man, we don't want Jason's legacy to be that he, went out without finishing this story. Like, we'd like to do a little, like, a tribute thing. And so we talked about, like at that point, I'm like, okay, I could see this. So I called Jason's mom and I told her about it. And she said, well, what do you think? I said, well, I'm exploring it, but it hit me while I was talking to Tim, was that when Jason first moved to Birmingham, and we were talking about, like, the plan, the initial sort of plan was, I want to do body bags like Mike Mignola does Hellboy. So he'll put out like a 4-issue miniseries or whatever every year or so, and then he's got other people working on it. So he's always got, like, he might write it, or he's just overseeing it. he's like, that's sort of the way I think that we, because I can't do that much art. Like 4 or 5 issues a year would probably be, it probably more like it would take me 2 years to do that. So if we could fill in like these other stories in Terminus and other baggers and build out that universe, because he knew, like he had all this wealth of knowledge about all this stuff that a lot of it he never told anybody. Like he would drop hints at you, like, oh well, like this character does this, and here's what their backstory is. So like, and he even met when he was here. Um, he met there was an A-list writer that was in town, um, and like we'd set up like he was going to be passing through. So he and Jay went to lunch to talk about, would you be interested in writing, some body bag stories, if we do this. So that was not like the idea of somebody else doing this was not like there was a couple people online that said, oh my God, you're disrespecting his memory. He would never let anybody do this. No, you're wrong. Like we talked about this and it was his idea. It wasn't mine. So, so then I met with, I did a Zoom with Tim and Stefano, and like that was when it was just like very obvious that these guys loved, and they love body bags, they love Jay, and Stefano was telling me like, man, we used to, we would Zoom or whatever FaceTime at night at our drawing tables, and we would talk, and like it's like I love the guy, like he's just a huge inspiration and a great guy, and so we started talking about what the story would be, and you do these crossovers and you see like the different company crossovers and they're not real, like they don't actually, like they are just disregarded. So for me the thought was, and I pitched to them was, let's set it in between, like right after Father's Day, and is it canon? I don't know, I don't care, whatever, but it should fit. If we're going to do a body bags thing, it's got to be centric to body bags. It's got to fit in the body bags. We want it to feel like it happened. And that way, when volume 1 of the Father's Day, like we can tell people hack slash body bags fits right after Father's Day. And it works. And so Tim said, I think I just want to do like one night in Terminus. Let's just do like a thing. And he started kicking out ideas and we were bouncing it around, and it's like, man, this is going to be really, really good. And so, talked to Jay's mom about it again, and she was for it. And, they started working, and, he came back with a story, and I was like, dude, like he just nailed it. Like Tim just absolutely killed it. He got Mac and Panda right. The storyline works. There's a lot of, like you saw in the first issue, like we were calling back stuff that happened in Father's Day. So it fits and it looks great. And, it doesn't look like Jay, but it's also, nobody can draw like him, right? But like it fits. It just, it's its own thing, but yet very true to the series. The voices are right. The characters are right. Like when Jason's mom's read all the scripts and she sends her notes, and like she's very involved in this stuff. And she read it. She's like, yeah, this is good. So I think the first issue, I think people slept on it. I think a lot of retailers maybe don't remember body bags. But I think it's probably going to sell out from early indications, or the print run will be gone. And but the reactions have been really good. So that was my, like, you hold your breath that people are going to like something, but this is one where the feedback's been really good, and I think it's great. It's a great little story. So if you are a fan of body bags, you will absolutely enjoy this one. I don't have any reservations about recommending it at all.
Yeah, it has a lot of good things going for it. I am familiar with Stefano Caselli, and I absolutely love his art. So I was happy that he was attached to it. Tim Seeley is obviously on fire right now. It feels like he can do no wrong in
Yeah.
comics. So and it was so smart to do like one night in Terminus. I love it. It feels right, and it does fit in perfectly. So I'm excited about that. So we have the artist edition, and we have this mini series. Is there anything else on the back burner in the works, brewing potentially for the future of body bags?
I really haven't, thought too much more about it's sort of like, hey, here's what I got to do first. Like they obviously would like to do, and actually, I think I've got to confirm this. I got a retailer told me that the body bags Father's Day was the trade was out of stock. So at least it might be an issue of switch over from diamond to lunar. But I don't know. I don't really know. I'm going to check on that. Because there's 2 volumes of body bag trades, and they're both a little old at this point, but hopefully that's the case, that that the new miniseries crossover got a little more interest in it. So then it's this, we'll just have to decide, do we want to reprint Father's Day as it is, or do we want to maybe look at doing something new, like an omnibus edition, or do we want to do both? If this Kickstarter is successful, or is successful, but if it continues to grow and we see all these new fans, does it make sense to maybe try to do a really special hardcover omnibus edition of all the existing material? As far as new stories, no, like there's nothing. There's stuff there. Like that 1999 book, which it's featured in the Kickstarter. He started on Body Bags 2 around 1998, I guess, and writing the script and all that. And then it was a 6-issue miniseries. I believe each story is 24 pages. So really big story. And it was completely written. One thing I knew that he had shown me those pages before, but I didn't realize he storyboarded the entire thing. So that was there, in one of the boxes was the full layouts to all 6 issues. And then he had 33 pages. The first issue was completely penciled. And then I think it was like maybe 10, 9 or 10 pages. I think there was 9 pages penciled and ink, different version, different stages. And I think there was one like page that he'd started drawing, but it was not complete. But so we've got that as part of the Kickstarter as one of our stretch goals. As the book makes more money, we can add up to about 40 pages. So right now it's a 200-page book. That's what we based our campaign on. And we'd like to get it up to about 240. Scott, we could go bigger, but Scott said I think they did a 250-page once, and he said there were some issues with like how.
I mean, they're huge to begin with, so you're probably breaking the printer at that point.
Yeah, it gets really unmanageable. And things are already heavy, like we're probably talking like 11, 12 pounds, for the book. But so there's that story that's completely written. All the dialogues there and everything. And like I've got those scripts and we've got it started, so there could be a possibility of trying to figure out what to do with that. And then there's the Don't Die Until I Kill You scripts are also, written. So who knows? I mean, we'll see how people react to this, and see if the demand is there. Like, part of me is like, well, maybe we could do a script book. And then another part of me is like, well, if this is working, maybe we continue the legacy, that way, of letting it, the stories are already written. Right. And it's not like he didn't abandon that, the Dark Horse, that sequel. He didn't abandon it. It was just tied up in, just the whatever that process was of advances and this kind of stuff. Like he didn't have the rights to it, but he did get that back. So like we could actually do that. Do that if we want to. So yeah, I don't know. But again, like it's not on my radar. Like the thing is, let's get this done. Let's get the Kickstarter out there. Then we'll look into reprinting stuff, and which I hope that grade is actually, if it sells out, that's a good sign, that people are looking for more body bag stuff. So
yeah,
main thing is like if we could do an omnibus collection would be great. That would be
the omnibus would be amazing and a necessity, in my opinion. It's perfect. It could have all the scattered mini series together and all the ancillary stuff. I do see the value now. I might have been one of the people who was a little hesitant just because of the emotional attachment to seeing somebody else other than Jason do body bags.
No. Like mine to myself, I just said no. Like when Kelly came over to me, I was just like, "There's no way. Like there's nobody else can do this. Like it's just
like your original." That's probably just like an initial gut reaction, but I very much see the value in it. Like because people who aren't familiar with body bags, are going to pick it up because of Tim Seeley or whatever, and they're going to become new fans, and then they're going to want to get, find out more about body bags and discover the genius of Jason, and that'll warrant future printings of his stuff and keep the legacy of Jason alive. And I think that is what's most important.
Yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, it wasn't until I talked to Tim and then Tim and Stefano together, and that's where you begin to see like, these things, they can have a different life. It's just if you're respectful, of Jason, but it's not something that we're like, oh my God, how can we find a way to make money off Jay? It wouldn't be like that. It would just be to
Um, it
to
sounds like it
show.
just fell into your lap anyway. It would be to honor him and not exploit
Yeah, yeah.
him.
There's no, like here with this campaign, we're not doing this to make money. We're giving the backers, hopefully something back for supporting Jay, and then helping his mom out. Like she spent a lot of money. There were 6 months of rent, on an apartment, which was not cheap. And then all the legal fees and all that kind of stuff. I mean, so she picked up a lot of debt, and she's retired, so it's not like there was this, like, so that's, we're just making money off this book, this Kickstarter, to, for those two reasons. It's not putting money in my pocket or Scott's pocket. There's man, like I said, the thing's really expensive to do anyway. So, we're just thrilled. Like, it's just to do that. And anything that gets made off of Hack Slash, that goes to, his mom too. Like, there's not some, cash factory that we're coming up with. You don't get rich doing comics anyway, unless you're one of those, really high end creators. It's always a labor, of love, and definitely on display here, I think.
Well, I'm happy to know that that you're trying to help take care of his mom, because I know that that would make Jason very happy too. So, um, you know, uh, I know it's a rough thing, but it's a great thing. I'm so glad it's here. We've got the artist edition Kickstarter. I know that's going to be a hell of a lot of work for you, because once the campaign ends, the real work starts, even though it's already started a long time ago. So,
They are
um,
stressful, man. I mean, I don't know why, but it just feels like you're once you hit, like, there's the build up to the Kickstarter, and luckily, being the fourth one, I kind of know what to expect to some degree, but like I haven't slept this week. I'm a light sleeper, so I'll wake up and like the I guess we launched the campaign on Tuesday morning, and I'd set my alarm, so I wanted to turn it on at 7 a.m. Eastern time. So I usually would wait until later. And then I was reading some stuff that said, just start with the East Coast. Because I was always trying to like split the middle of, you want the excitement to launch for people on the West Coast to be there too. And all the data I was reading about, over the research I was doing was, start at 7 a.m. Eastern time. And that way it's up when people start getting into work and checking their emails and stuff. So anyway, I'd set my alarm, and then at like 2 in the morning, I wake up to make sure I haven't overslept, and I don't go back to sleep. I just started thinking about the Kickstarter, so I didn't get any sleep that night. It was like Christmas or something as a kid, but I did. It was fun. I got up and hit go. It was 6 a.m. my time. I'm on Central Time Zone, and hit start, and then I have the notifications on my phone, and it was just like you just start seeing all the people back in it. I'm like, holy crap, it was great. So by the time I'd gotten up and gotten a shower, getting ready to go into the office, and it was like the stock market ticker just going off the whole time I was getting ready. It was fun, and just that excitement. And then we got funded and got the goal, pretty quickly, and then managing the campaign. There's a million people that are asking questions, and we're doing something different, which hopefully some people will see this, and like the book is so heavy, and we deal with typically with fulfillment partners, which costs a lot of money, right? So we're trying to keep costs down, and you do something that's not a normal comic book size, and the costs just go astronomically up to do fulfillment. And then you're starting to do international, and they're hedging their bets. They're giving you a quote for the different regions, and they're protecting themselves, trying to protect us. And so much costs get bloated. And we were getting quotes back for, 200 and something dollars to different regions to ship this book. And we'd had people with the last campaign, I had a couple people ask me about using freight forwarders, and which is basically like there's companies now in the United States, and their business is to ship people that collect stuff, or like clothes shopping and stuff that are in other countries. So they can like there's a place in Oregon, for example, it's a big one, and you can just like you open up an account and they store your stuff for you for weeks or months until you get enough stuff that you want to ship it. And then they'll work out the best, like, hey, we can do this option. There's like two or three different tiers, depending on how fast you want it delivered. And overwhelmingly, the international backers, uh, you know, really like this because it saves them money and get like, so if they're buying toys from Walmart, they can ship them to the fulfillment place. So that's what the freight forwarder. So that's what we're doing. Although we're still seeing that. So basically, like in our campaign, it says ship to the United States, but we ship it to your freight forwarder in the United States, and we're charging $17, and we're like, that is us probably, we're going to lose money on some people. We'll make maybe $2 on others. It should all wipe cross it out. We'll be fine. But so we'll ship it here in the United States. Your freight forwarder will then ship it to you. And so I'm seeing people say, well, it's $75. And then I've had one guy email me from Australia, and I think it was almost 200, which is crazy. But it's like, with a ancillary book stuff, it's probably coming in around 15 pounds, and it's a gigantic box. I mean, because we're putting that artist edition inside a bigger box, and then we're going to put like, stiff corner things in it to make sure the corners get dinged. So we're doing high-end packaging on it. So it's expensive, but that's one thing on the campaign, that for the international backers, but like, there's just no good way, to get some.
That freight forwarder thing sounds like a game changer. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
I think at this point it would be cheaper just to fly to Scott Dunbeer's house and pick it up in person.
It give you a good trip to, go into California and go to Disneyland or something, trip out of it.
Well, we've talked about the crossover and the Kickstarter. Is there any other information you want to share with us about the Kickstarter or the crossover that we haven't covered yet before I let you go?
No, I mean, just, we're the big thing is we're adding pages, like as stretch goals. We're gonna have some digital rewards and stuff, and then, upgrades to the book in different ways. And so just help spread the word as much as you can. Like, it's a crowdfunding. And a lot of people don't, like, hey, I backed it. I've done my job, which you have, great. We appreciate that greatly. But if you can get on social media, if you're on, I don't care if it's, Instagram or X or, Facebook, whatever, just share the campaign. More eyeballs, especially comic book fans, your friends see it. What we're learning in this is that there's a lot of Jason Pearson fans that, they don't follow his page, like he wasn't, super active of building his audience. So, like there was not a hub where they were going to all the time to find Jason Pearson is, right. So they're discovering this, so the more of his fans that get it, the better. And then the way this works is, we're giving more to the fans, the backers, by the more people that back it, right. But we can do more stuff, and we can add these pages, and, we're going to give away some cool, little stretch goal things. And yeah, so just, spread the word. That's all I can ask.
Yeah, because even though the goal has been fulfilled, like you said, like these things are ridiculously expensive. And I know it's funny because I did my Kickstarter recently, and you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by asking for too much money, but you don't want to screw yourself by asking for too less. So that's a whole other conversation. The nuances of Kickstarter, but some of the things you said actually gave me some good ideas if I ever do a Kickstarter again. So I appreciate that. I also appreciate very much you taking your time to talk with me today. After I sign off, if you want to hang around for a quick second so we can say a proper goodbye. But you heard it from Keven. The first issue of Hack Slash Body Bags crossover by Tim Seeley and Stefano Caselli is out, and it's amazing. It should be selling out everywhere. So it's like a 4-issue miniseries. So we have that to look forward to. The campaign is raging for Jason Pearson's Body Bags Artist Edition Kickstarter. And you heard from Keven how amazing it's going to be with the additional material, and just like a Jason Pearson fan dream, a comic book fan dream, and an artist dream, because it's going to be one gorgeous book. Scott Dunbier does not mess around. Anybody who just got the Batman Year One artist edition knows like how jaw-dropping the work that they do is. So I'm very excited about it. Thanks for being here, Keven. Continued success with Body Bags and 12 Gauge and any other endeavors you have going on outside of that. Maybe we'll have you back to talk about some of those, because it was all about Jason Pearson and Body Bags today. So go and support this campaign. Trust me, you guys, I don't recommend crap, and you won't regret it. you don't want to miss out on it because this truly is a special thing here. I mean, you just heard how much work, love, and attention is going into it. So make sure you pledge to that campaign. Go pick up /Body Bags. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit like, and I'll bring you more soon. Thanks again, Keven.
I thank you.
All right, bye.